So, what is the value of localized keyword research? So, keywords are the lifeblood of any search marketing project. It is essential that you understand the universe of the keywords, what everything means, what goes around them, in local markets and what's related to your products and services. So, you can't just say, this is the keyword, this is how everyone should use it, because it differs. There's different translations, there's different meanings, everything is different from different places. From this understanding, you can understand the needs, wants, and intents of the searcher. You can effectively map your content and say, okay, so this is what we want to say, this is what everyone else says, this is how they work together. So why do you need this kind of keyword localization? So how many of you have international companies or want to go international? Raise your hands. So it seems like a lot of you might want to know localization and something better than what Google Translate can give you. So like I said, localization is the understanding of what a local version of a keyword is. It doesn't always have to be the local language term. Some places use an English version of what the term is. So like Wi-Fi, it's still Wi-Fi in other countries, or written as Wi-Fi, just pronounced in a different way. Same with low cost, they might just use low cost instead of having their own version of the term. You don't want to run into the habit of having translation versus, you don't want to translate, you want to localize. Translation is making the literal translation of the word. You have the sign that says carefully slip and fall down. So I'm sure it's supposed to say, be careful, you might slip and fall down. So it's the same thing, but the translation is off. You're providing a different meaning of the keywords by just taking the words for granted. Transliteration is applying the phonetic sound of the keywords themselves. So this one is smoking room. So someone, instead of saying it's a smoking room, they said, okay, I know these words mean these things. Let me just write it out and hope for the best. I think it looks fine. It sounds fine. I'm not really sure. So these are the pitfalls you don't want to have by just using Google Translate and just hoping that what you're given is what actually is the truth. So this is probably what I think a lot of people know as, localization. Do you say soccer or do you say football? And then in the US, when you hear football, which one do you think it means? So there's a lot of places that say football, soccer, different versions of soccer. You need to understand how your audience is going to use the keywords, how they understand it, and then what the intent is. Even if you have football, in the US, this is a football, but this is also a ball of your foot. So these are both footballs, but they're different in the sense that they are not actually the same. So, even though you can localize the keyword to what you have, you have to understand the user's intent for the keyword. So what's something you don't want to do when you do localization? Does anybody know what this character is? Yeah. Yep. It's what? Sick? So I was seeing it as like, it's supposed to be like, yeah, Bing, but which means disease, illness, sick, virus. So when Bing was looking to expand the markets, they said, okay, so we're Bing. We want to be Bing everywhere. Let's go to China, let's be Bing. But when they went there, they noticed that, Bing, like you said, means sick. Do you want to go to a website, look for a search, and it's just, I'm going to look up sick. This is what I get. No, so what do you want to do instead? You want to get a localized version of it. This is the characters of Bi and Ying. So Bi Ying, it's close enough to Bing where you understand that this is the product, but you're not getting sick. So Bi Ying instead means, roughly translates to give answers to whatever is requested, which works out pretty well for a search engine if I do say so. So I think they got lucky on the localization part of this. Instead of being sick, you have, understanding that the intent of the user when they search for your site, they're going to get what they want. So another example of does a search engine understand what you're searching for? So on the left, we have a transliteration of Panasonic. So in Yahoo Japan, if you start typing in Panasonic in English, you start seeing related results for, did you mean, Panasonic in Japanese, Panasonic, beauty products, electronics, and things like that. And none of them are in English. But once you finish the word, they attach that word into it and then add the rest of it in the local language. So search engines are getting really smart about how to localize the keywords to the search. So even if you're, not understanding, if I'm not a Japanese person and I'm looking for these keywords, I can use this to say, this is my term. What are the keywords suggested that I can use that a search engine has already figured out are related terms or are the terms? So what you got to do when you come up with the localization process, you want to generate as many keywords for your product as you can. You want to find everything, you want to categorize everything, make everything into their own silo, and make sure that you can understand your product in the best way so that you can provide the best product to your consumer. So you can categorize your mobile phones into your brands, into your product models, your switches into their segments, your PCs, are they notebooks, are they ThinkPads, are they luxury sedan cars? What's a luxury sedan? Is it a Lexus? Is it a Ferrari? Once you've developed the master list of all the products and services that you have offered, then you can move towards localizing these keywords. You also need to look into any related keyword phrases that you can have your secondary keywords so that you can expand your product. You have all these variety of switches. They have all different search volumes. Some of them even have the same one. So it's good to have a nice variety to pitch to a variety of consumers. You find different ways of how people search for your product instead of saying, this is how I search for it. I have switches, but do people search for network switches? Do people search for PoE switches, Ethernet switches? And then each one of those you need to localize. After you have that section of keywords and secondary keywords, you look into your detailed product attributes. So these are more tertiary terms that are your descriptive terms. So you have comparisons like, is this the best digital camera? Is this an easy digital camera? Is it cheap? Is it discounted? Does it have an image stabilizer? Does it have 12 megapixels? Is it an SLR? Is it mirrorless? And then you go into the action cycle of I need to buy something, I need to download something, I need to update something. So understanding these different intents, you can provide different keywords and different localizations to the end user. So the last step is to understand the local buy cycles. Do your consumers use any of these keywords? Do they use buy? Do they use sale, closeout, upgrade, in stock? Which of these modifiers relate to the local market, or do none of them? Do they use something completely different? So once you've understood all these keywords and you have your list of keywords, you can maximize your clickability in Google SERPs. You can share your knowledge and your list with other people in your market. You can do it with other people on your teams so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there's actually a couple people from hotels, and we work together, and they tell me that these are the keywords we found for these markets, so we did the legwork, you don't need to. If you found anything, then let me know so that I don't need to. So you can share with, if you have people in APAC, if you have people in EMEA, they're all doing work in their local markets, so if they've done the legwork, save time, save energy, and just knowledge share. You can make friends in the local markets, so they're the best people that have the local knowledge. I can guess what a keyword is, but the best way to do it is to not only ask them what the keywords are, but how do they use it? Is there slang terms? Is there, variations in grammar based off of what the intent is. And then also trust but verify that the knowledge is correct. I've seen time and time again where I've asked a local person, what would you use in this scenario? And then I did a Google search for it and nothing comes up. So it's like, well, am I wrong? Are you wrong? I'm never sure. You have to look and see what they say.